Hey folks, this is a quick tutorial to try to help you get through the TI tips, the graphing calculator tips on page 177 in the textbook. It is all about how to do regression lines and residual plots. Okay, now in order to get started on that, they recommend that we go back to page 142 in the textbook where there's another TI tips that explains how to get data into the calculator. And some people did have a problem with that, so I want to make sure you, you guys are with me on this. We're going to go ahead and press the Stat button, and then we'll go ahead and hit Enter to go into the edit mode. And what they want us to do is they want us to enter two data lists, but they want us to enter the data lists in such a way that we can reuse the data for other purposes. And really, at the time we did the TI tips on page 141 and 142, there was the hope that we would save this data. So list 1 and list 2 are kind of reusable. We'll use them over and over again, and we keep recycling them. But the data lists for page 141 and 42 we wanted to retain, certainly so that we could use it on page 177 and maybe again in the future after that. So the way we do that is we're going to go up to we move our arrow up into the list names, and then we go to the right until there's a blank list. So number 6 is the last list. If I go to the right one more, there's a blank one. And there what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll do second alpha to sort of do alpha lock, sort of like, caps lock, but for alpha. And some of these keys have a letter above them over here. So I'm going to go ahead and find Y. There's the Y. And then we'll find R. And this will be the list where we store the year of the data from page 142. I'll go ahead and hit Enter. And then we'll go to the next list, another blank list, and we'll go ahead and make this where we store the tuition from the data on page 142. So again, I'll do second, alpha, lock, and then we'll do T, U, wherever the I is, I, and then back to T again. Yay, that wasn't so bad. And then Enter. And that is the trick for getting the names, year, and tuit into the thing. We're now going to go and start entering the data. For the years, it says we're going to start at 1990 and go through 2000. But it says don't use the numbers 1990 through 2000. What it says to do instead in the directions is to use 0, 1, 2, etc. So that's what I'm going to do, 0. And one of the reasons why I want to make sure that you guys are with me on this is because I want to make sure that after you complete this TI tips that whatever you get on your calculator screen looks just like what it looks like in the book. And one way to do that is to make sure that we all have the same data. We'll have other problems where we can try to see your unique result, but in this case I want to make sure we all have the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it while I enter the tuitions, because I think you can figure those out. I was just a little concerned that some people might enter like 1990, 1991, and that'll mean that our graphs will look different. So anyways, I'll be right back. So in the TI tips on page 177, it doesn't look like it asks us to do a scatter plot, but we did have to do a scatter plot on page 142, and I'd like you to repeat that to refresh your memory. You're going to go ahead and hit second and then stat plot, and then you're going to check and see all of these plots should be off, 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 off. There should be 3 of them. And what we'll do is we'll go into number 1 and we'll hit enter. And we'll go ahead and edit what number 1 is, what kind of plot it is, and what kind of data is in there. So the first thing that we'll do is go ahead and hit enter over on so that plot is turned on instead of off. And then I'll go ahead and hit the down arrow. And when I do, let me get this cursor out of the way. And then I've got 6 different kinds of plots. And we've tried several of these. We've done the histogram, and we've done modified box plots and regular box plots. Right now what we're going to do is go all the way to the beginning and use a scatter plot. and then we'll go down, and we got to make sure we have the right list specified. Now you'll notice that right now I see list 1 and list 2, but we want the data from year and to it in these for the X list and Y list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, there is a list, if I hit second stat I get list information, so second stat. And then if I go down here, if I cursor down, I can see to it as a list, and I do not see year, so there it is. So list 7 and list 8 are to it and year, and I got to move a little more slowly. There we go. So for my X list, I want year, I believe. So I'll go ahead and put that in, and then I'll go ahead and go back to second stat, and then I'll go and pick up to it. I'll just hit the number 7, save a little time. And so now my Y list is to it. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do the graph. I'll go ahead and hit graph. And unfortunately, it doesn't look very good. So I'm going to hit zoom. And then if I go all the way down to 9, or if I just hit the number 9, then it'll zoom in on data that I have. They call it zoom stat. So I'll go ahead and hit enter there. And that should be the scatter plot that looks like what you see in the book. I'm not entirely sure why that vertical line is there. I'm going to take a quick look at my y equals. Okay, I don't see a good reason for it. So that's probably just the y-axis. Anyways, so scatter plot. So far, so good. Okay, now the next thing is we're going to run linear regression on this data, and we're going to try to find the line of best fit. So let me go ahead and just make sure that I've got that down. To run linear regression on this data, I'm going to have to get out of this data editing screen. So I'll hit second and then mode for quit. And then I'll go back to stat. And instead of going to edit, I'll go to the right and go to look at the various calculations that are available. Statcalc, we'll call it. Again, I'm just following the procedure in the TI tips on page 177 in the textbook. We'll go down to Linreg. Now, by the way, some of you may have noticed that further down the list there's another Linreg, and one of them is AX plus B and one of them is A plus BX. You can use either one as long as you know what A means and what B means, and they mean different things for AX plus B and A plus BX. Okay, anyways, we're going to go and try to do Linreg. We'd like to do it on year and to it, and unfortunately we've got list 1 and list 2, so we'll fix those again. So second stat for list, and then we'll go ahead and we'll find the lists again. Hopefully we're down here. Let's see here. There we go, year and to it. So year will be 9, so that'll be in the X list, and then to it was 8, so I'm just going to go second list, and I'm just going to hit the number 8 because I remember it, and it'll save me a little time. I'm not going to put anything in for frequency list, but I would like to store the regression equation. I'd like to store the regression equation that the calculator produces. And again, you'll notice that this is in the procedure in the book. And what they say is for storing the regression equation, they want you to press vars. So we'll go vars, and then you're going to go to y vars or y variables, and then hit enter on function, and then we're going to choose y1. In other words, we would like the regression equation, that the line of best fit that the calculator produces, to be stored in y1. I'll go ahead and hit enter. Now, what's going to happen is we'll see in a minute over here on this y equals, there's a list of functions, and we're about to have a linear equation entered into the function y1 based on this calculation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, go down here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit calculate. And when it does, it gives me the y equals ax plus b, and it tells me what a is and it tells me what b is. A is my slope and b is my y-intercept in this case because it's ax plus b. And if I go and I look at y equals, I'm going to see that equation, and it'll graph. Oh, you can even see, actually, it's already showing that it did graph the line right there, but we'll show it on the screen over here. One thing I don't like about this though is I'm not seeing my R value for my correlation coefficient, and I'll show you why. For some of you most of you may already have fixed this, but some of you may still have a problem. If you're not seeing R, let's fix that right now. We're going to go to second, quit, and then second, and go all the way down to catalog. And then we're going to go all the way down to the D's. We're going to choose diagnostic on. I'm going to try to get there fast by clicking on alpha and then clicking on the letter D. And that'll take me hopefully to all the D's. And did it? Oh, maybe I clicked on the wrong thing. Oops, let's try that again. We're going to go second, catalog. Maybe I clicked on second instead of alpha. Now we'll try D. And nope, still not working. So I'm going to pause this and try to get to diagnostic on. Okay, for you it would be a little bit easier than it was for me. All you got to do is hit alpha and D and you'll get to the D's, and then you scroll down a little bit. I had to scroll all the way down one by one, but here we are. I'm at diagnostic on and diagnostic off. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to diagnostic on and hit enter. And then once I see it on the screen, I'll hit enter again. And what that should do is it should make it so when I go to run linear regression, we'll try it again, I should now see my R correlation coefficient. So we'll go ahead and run this year, then to it. We need the Y var thing over here. So again, went too far. So then we'll go vars, Y vars, function, enter, and enter, and then it should store that in Y1. Let's go ahead and hit enter, and then there we go. There's our everything. We've got our A, our B, our C. Oh, I did quadratic regression. Let me fix this. There we go, that's better. Now I did Linreg. So I got my y equals ax plus b. I've got my slope, 326 over 1. I've got my y-intercept, 6,439. Remember, that's tuition, right? And then I've got my R value, my correlation coefficient. Let's go and take a look at y equals. There's now an equation in there that's in the form of y equals mx plus b. It's kind of hard to see the whole equation because there's a lot of decimal places. So if I keep going to the right, eventually I'll see there's an X, and then I'll see there's just a number being added on. If I go and I hit graph now, I will see that not only do I have the scatter plot, but I have the line of best fit going through the data, and it looks like the line is a pretty good fit. So so far so good. We now have the scatter plot of the data. We got the data into two lists, we got a scatter plot of the data, and we got our line of best fit. Since this video is going on for a while, I'm going to go ahead and stop it, and I'll make a second video to explain to you how to nail down the residual plot part of the TI tips.